The past doesn't knock. It kicks down the door and drags you back to hell by your throat. I learned that lesson at 7:43 on a Tuesday morning, standing in my bakery with flour on my hands and a ghost in my doorway. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The dough wasn't cooperating. I punched it down for the third time, working out the air bubbles with more force than necessary. Behind me, Min-jun hummed tunelessly at his little table in the corner, crayons scattered around his coloring book like fallen soldiers. "Mommy, Dragon says the blue one is better." I smiled without turning around. "Then use the blue one, baby." "But I like green." "Then use green." "But Dragon." "Tell Dragon that you're the artist, not him." A pause. "Then, Dragon says that's fair." I shook my head, still smiling. My son had been talking to his imaginary friend for 2 years now. The pediatrician said it was normal, healthy even. A creative outlet for an only child. She didn't know that I'd whispered stories about a dragon to him when he was a baby, back when I still cried myself to sleep and wondered if I'd made the right choice. I shaped the croissants with practiced hands, laying them on the baking sheet in neat rows. Outside, Crescent Bay was waking up. I could hear Mrs. Patterson's ancient Volvo coughing to life next door. The seagulls were screaming at each other over by the pier. Normal sounds. Safe sounds. 5 years I'd been building this life. 5 years of early mornings and aching feet and learning to smile at strangers. 5 years of becoming Sarah Park, the nice Korean lady who made the best sourdough on the Oregon coast. Soo-Min was dead. I'd made sure of it. The bell above the front door chimed, and I wiped my hands on my apron. "We're not open for another 20 minutes. It's just me." Yoonji's voice rang out. A moment later, she appeared in the kitchen doorway, her flower shop apron still tied around her waist. Her eyes were bright with gossip. "You will not believe what's happening." I slid the croissants into the oven. "Mrs. Patterson finally asked out the mailman?" "Better." Yoonji grabbed my arm. "There's a convoy. Black SUVs, 3 of them. Tinted windows. They rolled into town about an hour ago." My hands stopped moving. "Jenny at the real estate office says some foreign businessman is looking at the old Harrington property. Wants to turn it into a resort or something." Yoonji's voice dropped to a whisper. "She says he's Korean. Handsome. But scary, you know? Like, scary scary. The kind of handsome that makes you want to run the other direction." The kitchen felt smaller suddenly. Colder. "Lots of Korean businessmen in the world," I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. "Doesn't mean anything." I know. I just thought you'd want to know. In case." She trailed off, watching my face. Yoonji didn't know everything about my past. But she knew enough. She knew I'd run from something. Someone. She'd never pushed for details, and I'd never offered them. "It's nothing," I said firmly. "Probably some tech millionaire looking for a vacation home." Probably. But she didn't look convinced. After she left, I stood very still for a long moment. My heart was doing something strange in my chest. Beating too fast, too hard. "It's not him. It can't be him. He thinks you're dead." I'd made sure of that. Dae-young had made sure of that. The fire, the dental records, the funeral I'd watched from a distance with tears streaming down my face and my hand pressed against my barely showing belly. Jun Seo had buried me. Mourned me. There was no reason for him to be in a tiny coastal town in Oregon. No reason at all. I went back to my croissants. The morning rush came and went. Mrs. Patterson bought her usual rye loaf and complained about her hip. Tom from the hardware store got 2 apple danishes and left a $5 tip. The teenage couple who came in every day to share a cinnamon roll sat in the corner booth, holding hands across the table like the world might end if they let go. Normal. Safe. Mine. Min-jun moved from his coloring to the display case, pressing his nose against the glass to examine the cupcakes. He was beautiful, my son. Dark hair that curled slightly at his temples. Serious eyes that saw everything. A stubborn jaw that he definitely didn't get from me. Mommy, can I have the chocolate one? After lunch. Dragon says chocolate is lunch. Dragon has terrible nutrition advice. He giggled, and the sound loosened something in my chest. This was why I'd run. This was why I'd given up everything, my name, my country, the man I'd loved more than breathing. To hear that giggle. To watch him grow up safe and whole and far away from blood and bullets and the empire his father commanded. The bell chimed again. I looked up with my customer's smile firmly in place. And the world stopped. He stood in my doorway like a dark angel, like a nightmare given flesh. 5 years had carved away any softness he might have once possessed. His face was all sharp angles now, his jaw harder, his cheekbones more pronounced. He was wearing a black suit that probably cost more than my entire shop, and his eyes. God, his eyes. I'd dreamed about those eyes. Woken up reaching for a man who wasn't there, a man I'd convinced myself was a monster. Juncio. The black dragon himself, standing in my bakery like he had every right to be there. For 3 heartbeats, neither of us moved. Neither of us breathed. I watched shock flash across his face, genuine shock, the kind that couldn't be faked. Then disbelief. Then something volcanic, something barely contained, rising up from whatever depths he'd buried his humanity in. I should run. I should grab Min-jun and run right now, out the back door, into my car, disappear again. Mommy? No. No, no, no. Mommy, who's that? Min-jun had appeared at my side, tugging at my apron. His small face was tilted up toward the stranger in the doorway, curious and unafraid. Junseo's eyes dropped to the boy. I watched it happen in slow motion. Watched him take in Min-jun's features, the dark eyes that were identical to his own, the stubborn jaw, the way he stood with his small shoulders squared like he was ready to take on the world. Junseo's jaw tightened. His hands, hanging loose at his sides, curled into fists. When he looked back at me, there was no more shock. No more disbelief. Just ice. Black ice, the kind that burns. Min-jun. My voice came out steady somehow. Go to the back and finish your coloring, okay? Mommy needs to talk to this man. But. Now, baby. Something in my tone made him obey. He shot one last curious look at Junseo and disappeared into the kitchen. The silence stretched between us like a blade. 5 years. Junseo's voice was exactly as I remembered, low, controlled, dangerous. 5 years I visited your grave. 5 years I talked to a headstone, told it about my days, my nightmares. 5 years I mourned you. Junseo. Don't. The word cracked like a whip. He stepped inside, and the door swung shut behind him. Don't say my name like you have the right. Don't look at me like you're the victim here. I can explain. Can you? He moved closer, and I forced myself not to retreat. Can you explain why you let me believe you were dead? Can you explain why my son, is 4 years old and I'm just now learning he exists? My heart was hammering so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. How did you find me? A terrible smile curved his lips. I didn't. I came here for a business deal. A property investment. Imagine my surprise when I walked past a bakery window and saw a ghost. Coincidence. It was just coincidence. The universe's sick sense of humor. You need to leave, I whispered. You need to forget you ever saw us. Forget? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. You stole 5 years of my son's life. You made me believe the woman I loved was ash in a box. And you want me to forget? The woman I loved. Past tense. Of course, past tense. You don't understand. My voice broke. I had to run. I had to protect him. From what? He was so close now I could smell his cologne, could see the fine lines at the corners of his eyes that hadn't been there 5 years ago. From me? You thought I would hurt my own child? I thought you wanted me dead. The words exploded out of me, 5 years of pain and terror and grief compressed into a single accusation. Jun Seo went very still. What did you just say? Dae-young told me. Tears were streaming down my face now, and I hated myself for them. He told me you approved the hit. That Chairman John ordered my death to test your loyalty, and you agreed. He said if I didn't disappear, you would kill me yourself. Something shifted in Jun Seo's face. The ice cracked, just for a moment, and I saw something raw underneath. Something wounded. Dae-young told you that? Yes. And you believed him. He staged the fire. He gave me new papers, smuggled me out of the country. He staged the fire. Jun Seo's voice had gone quiet. Dangerously quiet. Dae-young staged the fire that I spent 3 years investigating. The fire that I killed 12 men trying to avenge. I stared at him. What? I didn't order your death, Soo-Min. His hands were shaking. I'd never seen him shake before. Chairman John did. And when I found the proof, I put a bullet in his skull myself. I burned down half of Seoul looking for whoever helped him. And all this time. He laughed again, broken and terrible. All this time, it was Dae-young. My most trusted man. Playing us both. The floor tilted beneath my feet. No. No, that couldn't be right. That would mean I'd run from a lie. That I'd stolen his son because of a lie. Jun Seo. Close the shop. His voice was cold again, controlled, but I could see the storm raging beneath the surface. You have 1 hour. Send the boy somewhere safe, somewhere I can find him when this conversation is over. What are you going to do? He stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the heat of his body, and his voice dropped to a whisper sharp enough to cut bone. You have exactly 1 hour to close this shop. Then you're going to tell me everything Dae-young said to you, every detail, every lie. And after that. His eyes bored into mine. You're going to explain why I shouldn't burn your entire world down the way you burned mine. He turned and walked out, the bell chiming cheerfully behind him. I stood frozen in the middle of my bakery, my carefully constructed life crumbling around me. The past doesn't knock. And it never, ever forgets. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 2. I had exactly 1 hour to destroy the life I'd spent 5 years building. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I untied my apron. Min Jun was still in the back, humming to himself, completely unaware that his world was about to implode. I took 3 deep breaths, forced my voice into something steady, and walked into the kitchen. Hey, baby. How about you go visit Auntie Yoonji for a little while? Min Jun looked up from his coloring book, crayon frozen mid-stroke. But I'm not done with my dragon. You can bring it with you. She has those fancy colored pencils you like, remember? His eyes narrowed. My son was too smart for his own good. Is the scary man gone? The scary man. His father. The most dangerous person I'd ever known, and Min Jun had summed him up in 3 words. He's waiting outside. Mommy needs to talk to him about grown-up things. Dragon says he looked mad. Dragon's right. I knelt down to his level, brushing his hair back from his forehead. That's why I need you to go to Auntie Yoonji's, okay? It's like the practice we do. Remember the practice? Understanding flickered in his dark eyes. We'd rehearsed this dozens of times over the years. If Mommy ever said the special words, Min Jun would go to Yoonji's shop through the connecting back alley, and he wouldn't come out until Mommy came to get him. I'd prayed I'd never have to use it. Is it a real emergency? He whispered. I don't know yet, baby. But I need you to be brave for me. can you do that? He nodded solemnly, gathering his crayons with careful hands. When he looked up at me again, I saw Junseo in his face so clearly it made my chest ache. I love you, Mommy. I love you more. Now go. Fast and quiet, like we practiced. He slipped out the back door like a shadow. I watched until he disappeared into Yoonji's rear entrance, then turned back to face my past. Junseo was leaning against the counter when I emerged, arms crossed, watching me with those black eyes that gave nothing away. Once upon a time, I could read him. Once upon a time, those eyes had looked at me with tenderness, with hunger, with something I'd foolishly believed was love. Now there was only cold fury. He's safe, I said. With someone I trust. You'll give me the address. When we're done talking. His jaw tightened. You don't get to make demands. And you don't get to threaten me in my own shop. I moved to the front door, flipped the sign to closed, and turned the lock. My hands were still trembling, but I refused to let him see how terrified I was. You want answers? Fine. But this goes both ways. I have questions too. You. 5 years. I spun to face him. 5 years I believed you wanted me dead. 5 years I raised our son alone, looking over my shoulder every single day, waiting for your men to find us. So yes, Junseo, I have questions. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. The Soo-Min he'd known had been soft. Compliant. She'd loved him with a desperate, naive devotion that embarrassed me now to remember. That woman had died in a warehouse fire in Seoul. I was someone else entirely. Fine. He straightened, and even that simple movement reminded me how dangerous he was. How controlled. Ask. Why are you here? The truth. I told you. A property investment. Coincidence? Yes. I searched his face for a lie and found none. The universe really did have a sick sense of humor. Your turn, he said. Why did you run? I told you. Tell me again. Everything. From the beginning. I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold despite the warmth of the bakery. You know I worked as an interpreter for Chairman John. I overheard things. Meetings, phone calls. I knew things I shouldn't have. I know. What you don't know is that I overheard him planning your assassination. Junseo went very still. He was afraid of you, I continued. The Black Dragon, his prized weapon, getting too powerful, too popular with the men. He decided to eliminate the threat before you could move against him. I laughed bitterly. I tried to warn you. I was going to tell you everything. But Dae-young found me first. Dae-young. He said Chairman John had changed his mind. That instead of killing you, he was going to test your loyalty. And the test. My voice broke. The test was me. He said you agreed to have me killed. That you approved the hit to prove you were still loyal to the chairman. The silence that followed was deafening. Junseo's face had gone pale beneath his tan. A muscle ticked in his jaw. His hands, hanging loose at his sides, had curled into fists so tight his knuckles were white. He told you I agreed to have you murdered. Yes. And you believed him. What was I supposed to believe? The words ripped out of me, raw and ugly. You were the Black Dragon. You killed people, Junseo. You did terrible things and you never lost sleep over any of it. Why wouldn't you sacrifice me if the chairman demanded it? I was just an interpreter. A warm body in your bed. Replaceable. Replaceable? His voice cracked like a whip. You think you were replaceable? What else could I think? Dae-young showed me documents. Orders with your signature. He said if I didn't disappear, you'd kill me yourself. So he staged the fire, got me new papers, put me on a plane. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I was 3 months pregnant. I had to protect my baby from the man who wanted to kill me. So I ran. I ran as far as I could, and I never looked back. Junseok moved so fast I didn't have time to flinch. His hands gripped my shoulders, his face inches from mine. I never signed those orders. I never agreed to any hit. When I found out Chairman John had targeted you, when I found your body in that warehouse, his voice shattered. I held what was left of you in my arms and I screamed, Soo-Min. I screamed until they had to drag me away. That wasn't me. I wasn't there. I know that now. He released me abruptly, spinning away, and I saw his shoulders heave. Dae-young provided the body. Dae-young handled the identification. He told me the dental records matched. He grabbed the nearest chair and hurled it across the room. It crashed into the display case, shattering glass, sending cupcakes tumbling to the floor. I flinched but didn't move. Didn't run. I killed Chairman John for ordering that hit. His roar echoed off the walls. I put a bullet in his head and watched him bleed out on his own floor. I burned down half of Seoul looking for whoever helped him plan it. 12 men died by my hand because I thought they'd taken you from me. He turned to face me, and for the first time, I saw it. The grief. The rage. The 5 years of agony that mirrored my own. I visited your grave every month, he said hoarsely. I talked to you. Told you about my days. My nightmares. I told a headstone that I loved you, that I was sorry I couldn't protect you. His laugh was broken. And you were here. Alive. With my son. And Dae-young knew. He knew the whole time. The truth settled over us like ash. We'd both been played. Manipulated. Destroyed by a man we trusted. He told me you wanted me dead, I whispered. He told you I was dead. He kept us apart for 5 years. Why? Junseok's voice was raw. What did he gain? You. The realization hit me like a punch. He gained you. Your grief made you colder. Harder. More ruthless. You became exactly what the syndicate needed, a weapon with no weaknesses. No soft spots. No one to lose. Junseok closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were no longer cold. They were murderous. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and something in his expression made my blood freeze. Dae-young, he said quietly. He answered, putting it on speaker. Boss. Dae-young's voice filled the bakery, casual and warm. Good news, the property deal is secured. The owner accepted our offer. Excellent. Also, I found something interesting while I was reviewing the town records. That bakery owner you walked past this morning? Park, I think her name is. She looks just like. A pause. A laugh. No. Impossible. Never mind. Trick of the light. Junseok's face could have been carved from stone. Come to Crescent Bay. Now. Boss? We have unfinished business. Another pause, longer this time. Everything okay? Just come. He hung up without waiting for a response. What are you going to do? I asked. Junseok looked at me, and I saw the black dragon for the first time. Not the man I'd loved. Not the father of my child. The killer. The monster. The legend that made grown men weep with fear. He stole 5 years of my son's life. He let me believe the woman I loved was dead. He watched me suffer and said nothing. His voice was terrifyingly calm. What do you think I'm going to do? Part of me wanted to stop him. Dae-young had saved my life, in his own twisted way. He'd helped me escape, given me a chance to raise my son in peace. But he'd also stolen everything. My home. My love. My son's father. He'd let me live in fear for 5 years, believing I was running from a man who'd been mourning me the entire time. Part of me wanted to watch him burn. Jun-seo. I never finished the sentence. The front window exploded inward. Glass and gunfire erupted simultaneously. Jun-seo moved before I could process what was happening, his body slamming into mine, taking us both to the floor behind the counter. Bullets tore through the space where I'd been standing, shredding the walls, the display cases, my careful life. "Stay down," he shouted over the chaos. Outside, I heard tires screeching. More gunfire. Men shouting in Korean. "Who?" I started. "Not mine." His jaw was tight, his body pressed over mine like a shield. "Someone else found you." More glass shattered. The bakery was being torn apart around us, 5 years of work reduced to debris in seconds. Jun-seo pulled a gun from beneath his jacket, because of course he was armed, he was always armed, and fired 3 shots through the broken window. Someone screamed outside. "We need to move," he said. "Back exit. Now." Min-jun. "I'll get him. But we need to survive the next 30 seconds first." Another spray of bullets ripped through the counter above our heads. I could smell smoke. Something was burning. Jun-seo met my eyes, and for one moment, we weren't enemies. We weren't the people who'd been lied to and torn apart. We were just 2 people trying to survive. "On my signal," he said. "Run." I nodded. He rose, fired, and shouted, "Now." I ran. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 3. Bullets don't care about your feelings. They don't care that you just discovered you've been lied to for 5 years, or that the man shielding your body with his own is someone you'd convinced yourself was a monster. They just tear through wood and glass and flesh without discrimination. Jun-seo's weight pressed me into the floor behind the counter, his body covering mine completely. I could feel his heartbeat slamming against my chest, or maybe that was mine, I couldn't tell anymore. His face was inches away, close enough that I could see the small scar above his eyebrow that I used to trace with my fingertip while he slept. Another spray of bullets shredded the air above us. "Stay down," he growled. I wasn't planning on getting up. Despite everything, I saw his mouth twitch. Just for a second. Outside, someone shouted in Korean. Then more gunfire, but different. Controlled. Answering. "My men," Jun-seo said. They were in the car. Of course he hadn't come alone. The Black Dragon never traveled without protection. The shooting intensified, then stopped abruptly. Silence fell over the bakery like a shroud, broken only by the tinkling of falling glass and someone groaning in the street. Jun-seo rose to a crouch, gun still raised. "Stay here." "Like hell." He shot me a look that probably made hardened criminals wet themselves. I met it without flinching. 5 years ago, that look would have made me shrink back. But I wasn't that woman anymore. "Min-jun," I said flatly. His jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. We moved together toward the shattered front window, stepping over broken display cases and ruined pastries. My beautiful bakery looked like a war zone. Flour hung in the air like snow, mixing with gunpowder and the copper smell of blood. 3 bodies lay in the street. Jun-seo's men, 4 of them in dark suits, were checking the perimeter, weapons drawn. One of them jogged over when he saw us. "Sir." 3 hostiles, all neutralized. "Identification?" "Working on it." Jun-seo stepped outside, and I followed. I knew I shouldn't look at the bodies, but I couldn't help it. 3 men in black tactical gear, their faces slack in death. One of them had landed on his back, and I could see a tattoo on his neck, a white tiger, teeth bared, claws extended. Jun-seo saw it too. His expression went very still. "White Tiger Gang," he said quietly. "Who?" "A rival syndicate. We've had conflicts." He crouched beside the body, checking pockets with efficient hands. They're based in Busan. They shouldn't know about this location. They shouldn't know about you. The implication hung in the air between us. Someone had told them. Minjun. I was already moving. I have to get to Minjun. I didn't wait for Junseo. I ran down the sidewalk toward Yoonji's flower shop, my heart pounding so hard I could barely breathe. The distance was only 50 feet, but it felt like miles. The shop looked intact. No broken windows. No bodies. I burst through the front door. Yoonji. MNJUN. Silence. Then a door creaked open in the back, and my son launched himself into my arms. Mommy. I caught him, crushing him against my chest, breathing in his little boy's smell of crayons and sugar. He was trembling, but he was whole. He was alive. I'm here, baby. I'm right here. There were loud noises. Dragon said to hide. Dragon was right. I pulled back to look at his face, checking for injuries. Nothing. Not a scratch. You did so good, baby. You were so brave. Yoonji emerged from the back room, her face pale as paper. She was shaking so badly she had to grip the counter to stay upright. Sarah. Her voice cracked. Men came. Right after you dropped Minjun off. They had guns. My blood turned to ice. They were asking about you. Demanding to know where you lived, where you kept things. She swallowed hard. I told them nothing. I hid Minjun in the basement, behind the boxes, and I told them you were just a customer. I don't think they believed me, but then the shooting started down the street and they ran. Did they hurt you? No. But Sarah. She met my eyes, and I saw real fear there. They knew your real name. Your Korean name. They called you Soo-Min. The floor tilted beneath my feet. 5 years. 5 years of hiding, of building a new identity, of becoming someone else entirely. And they'd found me anyway. A shadow fell across the doorway. Junseo stepped inside, and Yoonji flinched back like he was a wild animal. We need to move, he said. Now. I'm not going anywhere with you. You don't have a choice. His voice was flat. The white tigers don't give up. There will be more coming. Your shop is destroyed, your cover is blown, and whoever sent them knows exactly where to find you. Then I'll run again. I'll take Minjun and disappear. Where? He stepped closer, and I hated how small he made me feel. Where will you go, Soo-Min? You think they won't find you again? You think you can protect him alone? I've been doing it for 5 years. And how well did that work out? He gestured toward the street. 3 men tried to kill you today. 3 more will come tomorrow. And the day after that. Until you're dead or they are. His eyes dropped to Minjun, still clinging to my neck. Is that what you want for him? I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to throw something at his head. But he was right. I have a safe house, he continued. Secure location, armed guards, state-of-the-art surveillance. You and Minjun will stay there until I figure out who's behind this. And then what? And then I kill them. He said it the same way someone might say, and then I'll make dinner. Casual. Matter of fact. Minjun lifted his head from my shoulder. He'd been quiet through all of this, watching the scary man with those dark eyes that missed nothing. Junseo seemed to notice him for the first time since entering the shop. Something shifted in his expression, something I couldn't read. Slowly, he crouched down until he was at Minjun's level. The Black Dragon, the most feared man in the Korean underworld, kneeling on the floor of a flower shop to speak to a 4-year-old boy. Hello, Minjun. His voice was different. Softer. My name is Junseo. I'm a friend of your mother's. Minjun studied him with that serious expression he got when he was thinking hard about something. Are you going to keep mommy safe? Yes. And me? Especially you. Min-jun considered this. Then, are you my dragon? The question hit Jun-seo like a physical blow. I saw it in the way his whole body went rigid, in the way his breath caught. What? Mommy tells me stories about a dragon, Min-jun said. He's very strong and very scary, but he protects the people he loves. Are you him? Jun-seo looked up at me, and for one moment, his mask cracked completely. I saw the grief. The wonder. The years of loss compressed into a single, devastating question from a child who didn't understand what he was asking. Yes, Jun-seo said hoarsely. I'm your dragon. Min-jun nodded, satisfied. Okay. Then we can go with you. The safe house was 2 hours outside Crescent Bay, nestled in the mountains where the trees grew thick and the roads twisted. It was more compound than house, multiple buildings behind a high stone wall, guards posted at every entrance, cameras everywhere. Min-jun had fallen asleep in the car, exhausted by the day's trauma. Jun-seo's men had carried him inside, settled him in a bedroom with blackout curtains and a nightlight shaped like a star. I sat beside his bed for an hour, watching him breathe. When I finally emerged, Jun-seo was in the main room with 3 men hunched over laptops. They spoke in rapid Korean, too fast for me to follow, though I caught fragments: trace, leak, timeline. What did you find? I asked. Jun-seo dismissed the men with a look. They filed out silently, leaving us alone. The White Tigers received an anonymous tip about your location 3 days ago. He pulled up something on one of the laptops. An encrypted message with your name, your address, and your connection to me. 3 days ago. That was when I decided to visit Crescent Bay, Jun-seo said quietly. When I finalized the property deal. Only a handful of people knew I would be here. The implications settled over me like a cold weight. The leak is inside your organization. Yes. Dae-young? Possibly. Probably. His jaw tightened. But I need proof before I move against him. And I need to know who else is involved. So we wait? So we wait. I wanted to argue. I wanted to demand action, answers, blood. But I was exhausted, wrung out from fear and revelation and the simple act of surviving. There's a room prepared for you, Jun-seo said. Across from Min-jun's. Get some rest. What about you? I don't sleep. He was wrong, of course. Everyone sleeps eventually. But I understood what he meant. I lay in the unfamiliar bed for hours, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through everything that had happened. Every lie. Every truth. Every moment I'd spent hating a man who'd been grieving me. Finally, around 3 a.m., I gave up. The safe house was silent as I padded down the hallway in bare feet. I checked on Min-jun first, still sleeping, clutching the edge of his pillow the way he always did. Then I went to find water. The kitchen was dark except for the blue glow of a phone screen. Jun-seo stood by the window, his back to me, looking down at something in his hands. I should have left. Should have retreated to my room and pretended I'd never seen him. Instead, I stepped closer. Close enough to see the photo on his screen. It was me. A younger version of myself, from before. I was smiling at the camera, really smiling, the kind of unguarded happiness I'd forgotten I was capable of feeling. My hair was longer then, and I was wearing a red dress I'd bought because Jun-seo said I looked beautiful in red. I took this the night before you died. His voice made me flinch. He hadn't turned around, but somehow he'd known I was there. Jun-seo. I've looked at it every day for 5 years. He finally turned, and what I saw on his face made my heart stop. Tears. The black dragon was crying. Not sobbing, not breaking down, just silent tears cutting tracks down his face, dripping off his jaw. He made no move to wipe them away. I visited your grave every month, he said. Rain or shine. I brought flowers because you always loved flowers. I talked to you like you could hear me. His voice cracked. I told you about my days. My kills. My nightmares. I confessed things to a headstone that I've never told another living soul. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. I told a pile of dirt that I loved you. He laughed, broken and terrible. For 5 years, I told a pile of dirt that I would have given anything to have you back. And the whole time, you were alive. You were here. Hating me. I didn't know. I know. He stepped closer, and I saw the exhaustion in his face, the grief carved into every line. I know you didn't know. I know you were lied to. But knowing that doesn't make it hurt less. He stopped inches away from me, close enough to touch. How am I supposed to feel now? His voice was raw, ruined. You were dead, and I learned to live with that. I built my whole world around that loss. And now you're standing in front of me, and I don't know if I want to hold you or hate you. I should have stepped back. Should have put distance between us. Instead, I reached up and wiped a tear from his cheek. I don't know either, I whispered. We stood there in the dark kitchen, two people destroyed by the same lie, trying to figure out what came next. I didn't have any answers. But for the first time in 5 years, I wasn't alone in the dark. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 4. I woke to the sound of my son's laughter. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Forgot the gunfire and the shattered glass and the tears on Jun Seo's face in the dark. The sound of Min Jun's giggle was so pure, so normal, that my brain simply rejected everything else. Then I opened my eyes to an unfamiliar ceiling, and it all came rushing back. I found them in the kitchen. Jun Seo sat at the table with Min Jun, both of them hunched over sheets of colored paper. Jun Seo's large hands moved with surprising delicacy, folding and creasing, while Min Jun watched with rapt attention. No, like this. Jun Seo guided Min Jun's fingers. You have to make the fold sharp. See? Sharp, Min Jun repeated, pressing down hard on the paper. Like a sword. Exactly like a sword. I stood frozen in the doorway, unable to process what I was seeing. The Black Dragon, the man who'd built an empire on blood and fear, was teaching my son to make origami. Jun Seo looked up and caught my eye. Something passed between us, too complicated to name. Mommy. Min Jun held up a lopsided paper creation. Look. Dragon taught me to make a dragon. I see that, baby. My voice came out strange. It's beautiful. Jun Seo says if I practice, I can make one with wings that move. Jun Seo. Not the scary man. Not the stranger. My son had already accepted him. Children were terrifying that way. I poured myself coffee with hands that weren't quite steady. Jun Seo had returned his attention to the origami, but I could feel him watching me in his peripheral vision. How long have you been up? I asked. A few hours. Did you sleep at all? A pause. Some. He was lying. I could tell by the shadows under his eyes, the tension in his shoulders. But I didn't push. I made breakfast, he said. There's rice and eggs. Soup. Traditional Korean breakfast. The kind my mother used to make, a lifetime ago. Something cracked in my chest. Thank you. We ate in silence, or rather, Jun Seo and I ate in silence while Min Jun chattered about dragons and paper and the dream he'd had about flying. Watching them together was like watching two puzzle pieces fit together for the first time. Min Jun had his father's intensity. His focus. The way he attacked problems with single-minded determination. How had I never seen it before? Because you didn't want to see it. Because seeing it meant admitting you'd stolen this from both of them. The thought made my appetite disappear. Dae-young arrived at noon. I heard the car before I saw it, tires on gravel, the low purr of an expensive engine. Jun Seo's men materialized like ghosts, checking the vehicle before waving it through the gates. Dae-young stepped out with a smile that made my skin crawl. He was older than I remembered, his hair shot through with gray, but he moved with the same easy confidence. The same warmth that had convinced me to trust him 5 years ago. Boss. He clasped Jun Seo's hand, pulled him into a half embrace. I came as fast as I could. The White Tiger attack, is everyone safe? Everyone's fine. Thank God. Dae-young's eyes swept the compound. I've already reached out to my contacts. We'll find out who. He stopped. He'd seen me. For one perfect moment, his mask slipped. I watched the blood drain from his face, watched his eyes go wide with something that looked almost like fear. This is impossible. His voice was barely a whisper. I saw the fire myself. I identified the body. You were dead? Jun Seo's voice was silk over steel. Yes, we all thought so. Remarkable, isn't it? The things people survive. Dae-young's gaze darted between us, calculating. I could practically see his mind racing, trying to figure out how much we knew, how much we'd pieced together. Soo-Min. He recovered quickly, stepping forward with his arms open. My God. It's a miracle. I never dreamed. Don't touch me. The words came out flat and cold. Dae-young froze mid-step. We'll discuss it later, Jun Seo said smoothly. Right now, we have more pressing concerns. The White Tigers knew exactly where to find her. Someone leaked her location. A leak? Dae-young's brow furrowed with perfect concern. Inside the organization? That's what I intend to find out. I watched them circle each other, the predator and the prey, except neither was entirely sure which was which. Jun Seo played his part flawlessly, the trusting boss consulting his most loyal lieutenant. And Dae-young played his, the devoted soldier ready to root out any threat. The performance made me sick. Detective Hannah Cho arrived without warning. One moment the safe house was quiet, the next, a black sedan with government plates was pulling through the gates. Jun Seo's men tried to stop her, but she flashed a badge and something that looked like a warrant, and suddenly she was standing in our living room like she owned the place. She was Korean-American, maybe mid-30s, with sharp eyes and a sharper suit. Everything about her screamed federal agent, the posture, the haircut, the way she catalogued every detail of the room in seconds. Kang Jun Seo. Her voice was flat. We need to talk. I don't believe I invited you. I don't believe I care. She looked at me, then at Jun Seo, then back at me. You must be Park Soo-Min. The ghost. I've been looking for you for a long time. Jun Seo stepped between us. Whatever you want, you can discuss with my lawyers. I'm not here to arrest anyone. Not yet. Hannah smiled thinly. I'm here to offer Ms. Park a deal. She's not interested. I'd like to hear that from her. They stared at each other, two apex predators refusing to blink. Finally, Jun Seo stepped aside with obvious reluctance. 5 minutes, he said. Then I want her off my property. Hannah led me to the back patio, away from listening ears. The mountain air was crisp and cold, and I wrapped my arms around myself against the chill. I know who you are, Hannah said without preamble. I know who he is. I've been building a case against the John Syndicate for 6 years. Then why haven't you arrested him? Because I want the whole network. Not just the dragon, the entire nest. She turned to face me. You worked as an interpreter for Chairman John. You attended meetings, translated documents, heard things you weren't supposed to hear. You're the witness I've been looking for. My stomach dropped. I don't know anything. We both know that's not true. Hannah's eyes were relentless. Help me bring them down. All of them, Kang Jun Seo, his lieutenants, every corrupt official on their payroll. In exchange, I'll give you and your son new identities. Real protection. Witness security, the whole package. You'll never have to look over your shoulder again. The offer hung in the air like a lifeline. A way out. A real escape, not another fake death and years of hiding. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't. Hannah handed me a card. Trust is earned. But I'm your best chance at a life outside this world. Think about it. She left without waiting for an answer. I stood on the patio for a long time, turning the card over in my fingers. That evening, Junseo gathered his lieutenants. I wasn't supposed to be listening, but the safe house had thin walls and I'd learned to be very quiet. I crouched in the hallway outside the study, Minjun asleep in his room, and heard everything. The white tigers are getting bold, Junseo said. I want to know how. I'm expanding our surveillance operations. He gave each lieutenant a different location, a different target, a different strategy. 3 different plans, shared with 3 different men. I understood immediately. He was setting a trap. Whichever story reached the white tigers would reveal the mole. It took 2 days. On the second night, Junseo's tech team intercepted a message to the white tigers. The information it contained matched exactly what he'd told Dae-young. Only Dae-young. I expected Junseo to act immediately. To drag Dae-young into a room and end him. But he didn't. He has insurance, Junseo told me, his voice tight. Documentation of every crime, every order, every kill. He's been collecting evidence for years. If anything happens to him, it goes straight to the FBI. So he wins? No. Junseo's eyes were cold. He just doesn't die today. Dae-young found me alone. I was in the small library, pretending to read, when he appeared in the doorway. The mask was gone. His warm smile had twisted into something ugly. You should have stayed dead. I stood slowly, putting the chair between us. Dae-young. I saved your life. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. I could have let you burn in that warehouse. I could have watched you die. Instead, I gave you a chance. New papers, new identity, a whole new life. And how do you repay me? You lied to me. I protected you. His voice cracked. Junseo would have gotten you killed eventually. That's what happens to the women in this world, they become collateral damage. I gave you an out. You made me believe the father of my child wanted me dead. Because he would have. Dae-young laughed bitterly. Not intentionally, no. Junseo loved you, I'll give him that. But love doesn't stop bullets. It doesn't stop rivals from targeting you to hurt him. Sooner or later, someone would have used you against him, and you would have died. I just accelerated the timeline. You orchestrated all of this. The realization hit me like a punch. The hit on Junseo. You weren't protecting me, you were removing him. Chairman John was old. Weak. His time was ending. Dae-young's eyes gleamed. I positioned myself to take over. Junseo was supposed to die in that coup, blamed for the chairman's death. You were supposed to disappear with his bastard child. Clean. Simple. But Junseo survived. He always does. Dae-young's jaw tightened. He killed the chairman himself, the suspicious bastard. Took over the syndicate before I could make my move. 5 years I've waited, building my evidence, positioning my pieces. And now you've ruined everything. I didn't ask to be found. No. But here you are. He pulled something from behind his back. A gun. I'll tell Junseo you ran, he said calmly. That you took the FBI's deal and disappeared. He'll believe it, he believed you were dead for 5 years. What's one more lie? I backed away until I hit the bookshelf. He'll find out. He won't. I've been lying to him since before you existed. I know exactly which buttons to push. Dae-young raised the gun. It's almost poetic, isn't it? You survived one fire. Let's see if your luck holds twice. The barrel pressed against my forehead. Cold. Hard. Final. I closed my eyes. The child was supposed to never exist. My eyes flew open. Dae-young was still talking, still savoring his victory. He didn't notice the small shadow in the doorway behind him. Didn't see Min-jun's pale face, his wide eyes, his trembling hands. Our emergency protocol. If mommy was in danger, find help. Run, baby. Run and find your father. As if he heard my thoughts, Min-jun slipped away. Silent as a ghost. Bang, Dae-young said softly, pressing the gun harder against my skull. Any last words? I forced myself to meet his eyes. Yes, I said. You talk too much. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 5. Jun Seo was reviewing surveillance footage when small fingers tugged at his sleeve. He looked down. Min-jun stood beside him, face pale as chalk, his whole body trembling like a leaf in a storm. Min-jun? What's wrong? The bad man. Min-jun's voice was barely a whisper. The bad man has a gun at mommy. For one heartbeat, Jun Seo didn't move. Then the businessman disappeared. The man who rose from that chair was someone else entirely, someone forged in violence and refined by years of blood. The black dragon didn't walk. He flowed, silent as smoke, deadly as poison. Stay here, he told his son. Don't move. Don't make a sound. Min-jun nodded, tears streaming down his face. Jun Seo moved through the safe house like a shadow. No running footsteps, no slamming doors. Just pure, controlled silence. He'd killed men in rooms full of guards without anyone hearing. One traitor with a gun was nothing. The library door was closed. He pressed his ear against it. Heard Dae-young's voice, arrogant and gloating. Any last words? Jun Seo didn't use the door. He went through the window. Glass shattered inward. Dae-young spun, gun swinging toward the noise, too slow. Jun Seo was already inside, already moving, a blur of black suit and cold fury. The first strike broke Dae-young's grip on the weapon. It clattered to the floor between them. The second strike sent him stumbling backward. Jun Seo, Dae-young raised his hands. Wait. Listen to me. Jun Seo didn't wait. The fight was brutal. Efficient. One-sided. Dae-young had been trained, once. He knew how to throw a punch, how to block, how to survive. But he'd spent the last decade behind a desk, giving orders, letting others do the dirty work. Jun Seo had never stopped. Every punch, every kick, every brutal strike was delivered with surgical precision. Not to kill, not yet. To hurt. To break. To make him feel every second of the pain he'd caused. Dae-young crashed into a bookshelf. Books rained down around him as he crumpled to the floor, blood streaming from his nose, his mouth, a gash above his eye. Please. He raised a shaking hand. I can explain. Jun Seo grabbed his wrist. And twisted. The crack of breaking bone echoed through the library. Dae-young screamed, a high, animal sound that barely seemed human. That's for the fire, Jun Seo said calmly. For making her believe she had to run. He grabbed the other wrist. Another crack. Another scream. That's for my son. For years of his life I'll never get back. First steps. First words. For birthdays I never knew existed. Dae-young was sobbing now, cradling his ruined hands against his chest. You don't understand, I was protecting her, protecting you. You were protecting yourself. Jun Seo crouched down, bringing his face level with Dae-young's. You wanted my throne. You manipulated everyone around you to get it. The chairman, Soo-Min, me, we were all just pieces on your board. I gave you power. I made you the black dragon. No. Junseo's voice was ice. I made myself. You just lurked in the shadows, waiting for me to fall. He stood, looking down at the broken man with something close to disgust. Death is too quick for what you've done. You stole 5 years from me. 5 years of my son's life. 5 years of believing the woman I loved was ash in a box. He turned away. You'll live, Dae-young. You'll live a long, long time. And every second of it will be agony. I hadn't moved. The gun lay on the floor between me and Dae-young, and I stared at it like it might bite me. Everything had happened so fast, the window shattering, Junseo appearing like an avenging angel, the brutal efficiency of the violence. Now the room was quiet except for Dae-young's whimpering. Junseo's men poured through the door, too late to help but ready to clean up. They looked at their boss, at the broken man on the floor, and understood without being told. Take him, Junseo said. Holding cell. No medical attention until I say otherwise. They dragged Dae-young away, his screams echoing down the hallway. I should have felt satisfaction. Vindication. Something. Instead, I just felt hollow. Junseo turned to me, and for one moment, his mask slipped. I saw the fear beneath the fury, the terror that had driven him through that window. Are you hurt? No. My voice didn't sound like mine. He didn't, he was just talking. Gloating. Soo-Min. I'm fine. I wasn't fine. I was shaking so hard my teeth were chattering, and there was a gun on the floor that had been pressed to my head 30 seconds ago, and my son had seen. Min-jun. I lunged for the door, but Junseo caught my arm. He's safe. He's with my men. He's scared, but he's safe. The tears came without warning. One moment I was holding it together, the next, I was sobbing against Junseo's chest like a child. He held me. Stiff at first, uncertain, like he'd forgotten how. Then his arms tightened around me, pulling me closer, and I felt him bury his face in my hair. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have known. I should have questioned the body, the fire, something. I should have felt that you were still alive. You thought I was dead. I should have known. His voice cracked. 5 years I visited your grave. 5 years I talked to dirt and stone and pretended you could hear me. And the whole time, you were alive and terrified, raising our son alone, thinking I wanted you dead. Junseo. I gave up. The words seemed to tear something inside him. I gave up and let the grief swallow me whole. I became exactly what they wanted, a weapon without weaknesses. And if I had just looked, just questioned. You couldn't have known. I should have. He pulled back, cupping my face in his hands. His eyes were red, wet with tears he wouldn't let fall. I should have torn the world apart looking for proof. I should have never accepted it. But I was a coward. I let myself believe because believing was easier than hoping. I didn't know what to say. There were no words that could bridge 5 years of pain and lies and lost time. So I did the only thing I could. I kissed him. It wasn't gentle. Wasn't sweet. It was desperate and angry and full of grief. 5 years of missing him, hating him, loving him despite everything. He kissed me back just as fiercely, his hands tangling in my hair, his body pressing mine against the bookshelf. For one perfect moment, there was no syndicate. No betrayal. No dead years between us. Just this. Just us. Then. Mommy? We broke apart. Min-jun stood in the doorway, one of Junseo's men hovering uncertainly behind him. His face was streaked with tears, his lower lip trembling. Mommy, I was scared. I dropped to my knees and pulled him into my arms. I know, baby. I know. But the bad man is gone now. He can't hurt us anymore. Dragon saved you? I looked up at Junseo, who was watching us with an expression I couldn't read. Yes, baby. Dragon saved me. Jun Seo knelt beside us. Slowly, hesitantly, he reached out and touched Min Jun's shoulder. Then he wrapped his arms around both of us, pulling us against his chest. The first time he'd held me in 5 years. The first time he'd held his son ever. We stayed like that for a long moment, 3 broken people holding each other together. The FBI arrived 2 hours later. I heard the cars before I saw them, multiple vehicles, tires screaming on gravel. Jun Seo's men scrambled into position, weapons drawn, but it was too late. Detective Hannah Cho stepped out of the lead vehicle, flanked by agents in tactical gear. Her face was calm, professional, utterly merciless. Kang Jun Seo. Her voice rang across the compound. You're under arrest for racketeering, murder, and conspiracy. Please step away from the building and put your hands where I can see them. Jun Seo didn't move. On what evidence? Hannah smiled. Your friend Dae-young was very thorough. He kept copies of everything, bank transfers, orders, recorded conversations. He sent them to 3 different servers as insurance. When he missed his check-in today, they automatically forwarded to my office. The blood drained from my face. The evidence. Dae-young's insurance. Even from a holding cell, he'd found a way to destroy us. Jun Seo. Stay back. His voice was quiet. Controlled. Take Min Jun and stay back. I can't let you. Soo-Min. He turned to look at me, and his eyes were calm. Resigned. This was always going to happen. Today, tomorrow, next year. This is how it ends for men like me. Hannah stepped forward. Ms. Park. You have a choice to make. Testify against him, everything you know, everything you saw during your time with the syndicate, and you get full immunity. New identities for you and your son. A life outside this. The card she'd given me felt like it was burning in my pocket. Or, Hannah continued, you can stand by him and face charges as an accessory. Your choice. Jun Seo caught my eye. Go. The word hit me like a physical blow. What? Take their deal. His voice was steady, but I could see the effort it cost him. Take Min Jun and run. Give him the life he deserves, one without blood and bullets and looking over his shoulder. Jun Seo, I can't. You can. He stepped toward me, and the federal agents tensed, hands on their weapons. He ignored them. I've killed people, Soo-Min. I've done terrible things that I can't take back. I don't deserve you. I don't deserve him. But he deserves a chance. A real chance at a normal life. Mommy? Min Jun was clinging to my leg, his face buried against my thigh. Mommy, where are they taking Dragon? I looked down at my son. Then at Jun Seo. Then at Hannah, waiting with handcuffs and the promise of freedom. Ms. Park. Hannah's voice was impatient. I need an answer. Jun Seo held my gaze. He was giving me permission to destroy him. To choose our son over him. To walk away from everything we just found again. Go, he said again. Please. Min Jun looked up at me, then at his father. Mommy? Where are they taking him? I opened my mouth to answer. And realized I didn't know what to say. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 6. No. The word fell from my lips before I'd even decided to say it. Hannah Cho's eyes narrowed. Jun Seo's head snapped toward me. Ms. Park, I don't think you understand your situation. I understand it perfectly. I stepped forward, putting myself between Jun Seo and the federal agents. I'll testify. But not against him. Then we have nothing to discuss. Yes, we do. I met Hannah's gaze without flinching. You want to bring down one man. I'm offering you an empire. Silence fell over the compound. Even Jun Seo's men had stopped moving, watching me with confusion and something that might have been hope. I worked as an interpreter for Chairman John for 3 years, I continued. I sat in rooms where deals were made, bribes were paid, and alliances were formed. I translated documents that were never supposed to see the light of day. I know every corrupt official on the syndicate's payroll. Every politician who took their money. Every police chief who looked the other way. Hannah's expression didn't change, but I saw the flicker of interest in her eyes. I know the names of the men who run the White Tiger Gang, their real names, not their street names. I know their bank accounts in the Caymans, their shell companies in Singapore, their supply routes through Mexico. I know where the bodies are buried, Detective Cho. Literally. And you're offering all of this, in exchange for what? His freedom. I pointed at Jun Seo without looking at him. Full immunity for Kang Jun Seo. No jail time, no charges. He surrenders his illegal assets, transitions to legitimate business only, and the John Syndicate as it exists today dies. But he walks free. Absolutely not. Then you get nothing. I crossed my arms. You can arrest him on Dae-young's evidence. Maybe it sticks, maybe it doesn't. Half of it was gathered through illegal surveillance, and any decent lawyer will tear it apart. You'll spend years in court, millions in taxpayer money, and maybe, you'll get a conviction. Or. I let the word hang in the air. Or. Hannah's voice was tight. Or you take my deal. You get the entire Korean underworld network on a silver platter. Names, dates, evidence that will hold up in any court. You become the agent who dismantled an international criminal empire. I imagine that would look very good on your record. Jun Seo made a sound behind me. It might have been a laugh. Soo-Min, he started. I'm not finished. I didn't turn around. I have conditions. Jun Seo gets immunity. Min Jun and I get witness protection for as long as we need it. And you leave us alone. No surveillance, no check-ins, no, just one more question. When this is over, we disappear. On our terms. Hannah stared at me for a long moment. You're not the scared interpreter I read about in my files. That woman died in a fire 5 years ago. I smiled without warmth. I'm what's left. The negotiations took 6 hours. We sat in the safe house's dining room, me, Jun Seo, Hannah, and 3 federal lawyers who looked increasingly uncomfortable as the day wore on. I laid out everything I knew, name by name, crime by crime, while they scribbled notes and exchanged significant glances. Jun Seo watched me work with an expression I couldn't quite read. Pride, maybe. Surprise. Something darker underneath, the realization that I'd become someone he didn't fully recognize. Good. I wasn't the same woman who'd loved him blindly and trusted too easily. By midnight, we had a deal. Jun Seo would plead guilty to minor charges, tax evasion, mostly, and receive 5 years probation. He would surrender all illegal assets, estimated at over $200 million. The syndicate would be officially dissolved. In exchange, I would testify against 17 other targets, providing evidence that would take down criminal networks across 3 continents. This doesn't mean I like you, Hannah said as she signed the final papers. And it doesn't mean I trust him. I don't need you to like me. I took my copy of the agreement. I just need you to keep your word. I always do. She stood, gathering her files. We'll begin depositions next week. Until then, stay here. Stay quiet. And for God's sake, stay alive. She left with her army of agents, and the safe house fell silent. Jun Seo found me in the kitchen an hour later, staring at a cup of coffee I hadn't touched. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Soo-Min. He sat across from me, and I saw the exhaustion in his face, the weight of everything that had happened pressing down on him. I was prepared to go to prison. I deserved to go to prison. What you did. What I did was protect my family. I finally looked at him. Min Jun needs his father. Not visiting him through glass, not writing letters to a cell. He needs you here. And I swallowed hard. I spent 5 years alone. I don't want to do it again. Something shifted in his expression. Softened. The syndicate is gone, he said quietly. Everything I built. Everything I was. It's over. Are you sorry? He considered the question for a long moment. No, he finally said. I'm relieved. The white tigers came at dawn. I was half asleep when the first explosion shook the compound. Then the gunfire started, not the controlled bursts from the attack in Crescent Bay, but a full-scale assault. Automatic weapons. Dozens of them. Jun Seo burst into my room, already armed. Get Min Jun, panic room. Now. What's happening? They're not letting us walk away. His jaw was tight. Dae-young must have given them our location before the FBI took him. This is their last chance to take us out. I ran for Min Jun's room, scooping him up even as he whimpered with confusion and fear. It's okay, baby. We're going somewhere safe. Just hold on to mommy. The panic room was hidden behind a bookshelf in the study, reinforced steel, independent air supply, enough food and water for a week. Jun Seo had shown it to me the first night, just in case. I never thought we'd actually need it. Stay here. Jun Seo pressed a gun into my hands. Don't open this door for anyone but me. If I don't come back in an hour. Don't say that. If I don't come back, he grabbed my face, forcing me to look at him. There's a tunnel. Behind the supply shelf. It leads to the road. You take Min Jun and you run. Jun Seo. He kissed me. Hard and desperate and final. I love you, he said. I never stopped. Not even when I thought you were dead. Not even when I wanted to. Then he was gone, the door sealing shut behind him. The battle lasted 2 hours. I heard all of it through the reinforced walls, gunfire, explosions, screams. Jun Seo's men were good, but they were outnumbered. One by one, the sounds of resistance faded. Min Jun clung to me in the darkness, his face buried against my neck. I held him with one arm, the gun in my other hand, and waited. Then, silence. Footsteps outside the door. Heavy. Multiple. A voice I didn't recognize. Open up. We know you're in there. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. We have your man. The voice was cold, amused. He's bleeding out on the floor. You want him to live? Open the door. Min Jun whimpered. I pressed my hand over his mouth, hating myself for it. Last chance. Open the door, or we start shooting through it. I thought about the tunnel. I could take Min Jun and run, leave Jun Seo to die, save our son the way he'd asked me to. But I was done running. I was done being the woman things happened to. Min Jun. I knelt down, looking into my son's terrified eyes. I need you to be very brave. Can you do that for me? He nodded, tears streaming down his face. Hide behind the shelves. Don't come out, no matter what you hear. And if the bad men come in, I pressed his origami dragon into his hands. You remember what dragon taught you? About the special button inside? He nodded again. Press it and run. The good guys will find you. I didn't give him time to argue. I stood, checked my weapon, and opened the door. The main room was a massacre. Jun Seo's men lay scattered across the floor, dead or dying. The furniture was shredded, the walls pocked with bullet holes. And in the center of it all, Jun Seo. He was on his knees, hands behind his head, blood streaming from a wound in his shoulder. A man stood over him, tall, lean, with cold eyes and a white tiger tattooed across his throat. The white tiger leader. Ah. He smiled when he saw me. The interpreter. We've been looking for you. I raised my gun, aiming at his chest. Let him go. Or what? You'll shoot me? He laughed. You're an interpreter, sweetheart. You translate words. You don't. I shot one of his men. The bullet caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around. Not a kill shot, I couldn't risk hitting Junseo, but enough to prove my point. I've had 5 years to learn new skills. My voice was steady, even though my heart was hammering. You want to test what else I can do? The White Tiger leader's amusement faded. Impressive. But you're still outnumbered. Put down the gun, and we'll make this quick. Make what quick? You know too much. He shrugged. You sat in rooms you shouldn't have been in, heard things you shouldn't have heard. Our operations, our contacts, our supply chains, you're a liability. So are you. I kept my weapon trained on him. The FBI has everything I know. Killing me doesn't erase that. No. But it makes me feel better. He raised his weapon at Junseo's head. Here's how this works. You put down the gun, come with us quietly, and your man gets to live. Refuse, and I put a bullet in his brain. Then I come for you anyway. He pressed the barrel against Junseo's temple. Choose. Junseo met my eyes. Run, his expression said. Take Minjun and run. But I wasn't looking at him. I was looking at the doorway behind the White Tiger leader. The empty doorway. Minjun wasn't in the panic room anymore. My heart stopped. Then started again, faster. The origami dragon. The GPS tracker Junseo had hidden inside, disguised as a game, a way to always find our son. Minjun had pressed the button. I just had to buy time. The interpreter thinks she's a soldier, the White Tiger leader said, amused. He pressed the gun harder against Junseo's head. Watch him die first. Then we'll have fun with you. I tightened my grip on my weapon. Come on. Come on. In the distance, I heard sirens. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 7. Minjun ran. His small legs pumped through the darkness of the tunnel, one hand clutching the paper dragon, the other trailing along the cold concrete wall. He couldn't see anything, it was too dark, too scary, but Dragon had shown him this path. Dragon had made him memorize every turn. If something bad happens, you run. You press the button inside the dragon and you run until you find light. He'd pressed the button. He'd felt it click beneath his fingers, just like Dragon taught him. Now he just had to be brave. Behind him, somewhere far away, he heard more loud bangs. More screaming. His mommy was back there. His dragon was back there. Minjun ran faster. The tunnel seemed to go on forever, but finally, he saw it. A crack of gray light ahead. An exit. He burst out into cold morning air, stumbling onto gravel, falling to his knees. The sky was pale pink above the mountains. Birds were singing somewhere, like nothing was wrong. Minjun hugged his paper dragon and cried. And waited for the good guys to find him. Inside the safe house, I had no idea my son was already safe. All I knew was that I needed to buy time. The White Tiger leader, I'd heard his men call him Byung-ho, stood over Junseo with his gun pressed to Junseo's temple. 3 of his men flanked him, weapons trained on me. The sirens I'd heard were getting closer, but not close enough. I needed minutes. Maybe I only had seconds. Wait. Byung-ho's finger tightened on the trigger. I'm done waiting. Then you're done living. He paused. Not much, just a flicker of hesitation. But it was enough. You think the FBI is your only problem? I kept my voice steady, channeling every ounce of control I'd learned in years of high-stakes translation. You think I only talked to them about the John Syndicate? What are you saying? I'm saying I know everything, Byung-ho. Not just about the Johns. About you. About the White Tigers. I let a cold smile cross my face. About the $16 million you've been skimming from your own operations for the last 4 years. The room went very still. Byung-ho's men exchanged glances. I saw the seeds of doubt take root. You're lying. Am I? I tilted my head. Account number 7749 to 2831, Cayman National Bank. Opened under the name Park Min-soo, your mother's maiden name combined with your father's. Cute touch. You transfer between 50 and 100,000 every month, routed through a shell company in Singapore. Would you like me to keep going? His face had gone pale. How do you? I interpreted for Chairman John for 3 years. I sat in rooms where money moved. I paid attention. I took a step forward, and his men's weapons tracked me. Kill me, and that information goes public. I have insurance too, Byung-ho. Documents, account numbers, transaction records, all scheduled to release if I don't check in within 24 hours. Your own men will tear you apart when they find out you've been stealing from them. The sirens were louder now. Closer. Byung-ho's jaw worked. I could see him calculating, weighing his options, trying to find a way out. You're bluffing. Try me. Jun Seo was watching me from his knees, barely conscious, blood still streaming from his shoulder. But I saw something in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Wonder. He'd fallen in love with a gentle interpreter. A soft woman who cried at sad movies and believed the best in people. That woman was gone. This was who I'd become. Cold. Calculating. Ruthless when protecting my own. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to lower your weapon. You're going to walk out of here. And you're never going to come near my family again. And if I refuse? Then I release everything. Right now. I have a dead man's switch on my phone, one button and it all goes out. Your men, the other gangs, the FBI. Everyone finds out what you've been doing. I raised my chin. You might kill me. But you won't survive the week. The standoff stretched into eternity. Byung-ho's gun trembled against Jun Seo's head. His men shifted nervously, watching their leader, watching me. Then the front door exploded inward. FBI tactical teams poured through every entrance simultaneously, doors, windows, the breach in the back wall. Black armor, automatic weapons, overwhelming force. FBI. Drop your weapons. Drop them now. Byung-ho's men scattered, some surrendering, some trying to fight. Gunfire erupted throughout the compound, but this time it was controlled, professional. Byung-ho didn't drop his weapon. He turned toward me, face twisted with rage, gun swinging away from Jun Seo and toward my chest. I shot him. The bullet caught him center mass. He staggered, looked down at the bloom of red spreading across his shirt, then looked back at me with something like disbelief. I shot him again. He fell. I stood over his body, gun still raised, watching the light fade from his eyes. Not in anger. Not in vengeance. In cold, calculated practicality. He would have hunted us forever. He would have never stopped. Now he would never hunt anyone again. Soo-Min. The voice was weak. Thready. I dropped to my knees beside Jun Seo, my hands finding his face, his shoulders, the wound that was still pumping blood. I'm here. I'm right here. Min-jun. He's safe. He got out. I pressed my hands against his shoulder, trying to stop the bleeding. Just stay with me. Help is here. Just stay awake. Soo-Min. His eyes were unfocused, drifting. I'm tired. No. No, you don't get to be tired. I pressed harder. The blood was warm against my fingers, too much blood, far too much. You don't get to die. Not now. Not when we just got you back. Min-jun needs. He needs his father. My voice cracked. I couldn't finish. Couldn't say the words that had been locked inside me for 5 years. Junseo's eyes closed. No. No, 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 Junseo. His chest stopped moving. I need a medic. Medic. FBI agents swarmed around us, but I barely saw them. All I could see was Junseo's face, gray and slack, the blood still seeping from beneath my fingers. Ma'am, you need to step back. He's not breathing. I started chest compressions, muscle memory from a CPR class I'd taken years ago. Someone help me. He's not breathing. A paramedic appeared, pushing me aside. Then another. They worked with brutal efficiency, checking his pulse, his airway, attaching monitors and IVs. He's in cardiac arrest. Starting CPR. Come on. I was sobbing, I realized. Couldn't stop. Come on, come back. Charging. Clear. Junseo's body jerked. The monitor flatlined. Again. Clear. Another jerk. Still nothing. How long has he been down? Unknown. At least 2 minutes, maybe 3. 3 minutes. Too long. Far too long. One more time. Clear. Flatline. The paramedic looked at me, and I saw the verdict in his eyes before he spoke. Ma'am. I'm sorry. He's lost too much blood. There's too much damage. No. I shoved him aside, positioned my hands over Junseo's chest. No. He doesn't get to do this. Ma'am. I started compressions. 1, 2, 3, 4. You survived everything. Push. 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 You survived losing me. You survived 5 years of grief. You don't get to give up now. Ma'am, please. Come back to me. I don't know how long I kept going. Seconds. Minutes. My arms burned. My vision blurred with tears. But I didn't stop. Couldn't stop. He'd held what he thought was my body in his arms. He'd screamed until they dragged him away. He'd visited my grave every month for 5 years. I wasn't going to let him die in mine. Mommy? The small voice cut through everything. I looked up. Min-jun stood in the doorway, clutching his paper dragon, tears streaming down his face. Hannah Cho stood behind him, one hand on his shoulder. Mommy, is Dragon sleeping? Baby, my voice broke. Baby, go with the nice lady. Min-jun pulled away from Hannah and ran to us. He dropped to his knees beside Junseo's head, his small hand reaching out to touch his father's face. Daddy? His voice was tiny. Broken. Wake up, Daddy. Please wake up. He'd never called him Daddy before. Daddy, I was brave. I ran like you told me. I pressed the button. Tears dripped onto Junseo's cheek. Please wake up. You have to teach me more dragons. You promised. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. I just kept pushing on Junseo's chest, compressions that were probably useless, refusing to accept. And then. A gasp. Junseo's body jerked, not from the compressions, but from something else. Something inside him. A heartbeat on the monitor. Weak. Thready. But there. We have a rhythm. The paramedic shoved me aside, working frantically. Get me another bag of oneg. We need to move, now. Junseo's eyes fluttered. They found Min-jun first. Then me. His lips moved, barely a whisper. I leaned close to hear. Did you just call me? He couldn't finish. But his hand moved, trembling, reaching for Min-jun's small fingers. Min-jun grabbed on tight. Daddy's awake, he announced, as if he'd never doubted it for a second. I told you. Dragons don't die. They loaded Jun Seo into the helicopter with an army of medics surrounding him. Hannah tried to keep me back, tried to tell me there wasn't room, but I climbed in anyway. Min Jun was in my arms, his paper dragon still clutched in his fist. "You saved him," Hannah said through the helicopter door, shouting over the rotors. The tracker. We were 15 minutes out when the signal activated. "Your son led us right to you." I looked down at Min Jun, at his serious eyes and his stubborn jaw, so much like his father. "He saved all of us." The helicopter lifted off. Below us, the safe house grew smaller, the compound that had become a battlefield, the place where the John Syndicate had finally died. Jun Seo's hand found mine. His grip was weak, his skin cold, but he was alive. "Stay with me," I whispered. His eyes met mine. In them, I saw everything, the grief, the rage, the 5 years of loss. But underneath all of it, something new. Hope. "Always," he breathed. "I'm done running from you." I laughed. It came out broken, wet with tears. "Good. Because I'm done running too." Min Jun nestled between us, one hand on his father's chest, the other still clutching his dragon. "Can we go home now?" he asked. I looked at Jun Seo. He looked at me. Home wasn't a place anymore. It was this. The three of us, battered and broken, holding onto each other in the belly of a helicopter racing toward an uncertain future. "Yeah, baby," I said. "We're going home." If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 8. 6 months later. The dough was cooperating today. I worked it with practiced hands, folding and pressing, feeling the familiar give beneath my fingers. Outside the kitchen window, Crescent Bay was still dark, the first hints of dawn just touching the horizon. The ovens were warming. The coffee was brewing. Everything was exactly as it should be. Except for one thing. "I think this one's dead." I turned to find Jun Seo staring at his croissant with genuine distress. The poor pastry lay flat and misshapen on his baking sheet, looking less like a crescent and more like a sad, deflated football. "You're overworking the dough." I tried to keep the laughter out of my voice. "You have to be gentle." "I'm being gentle." "You're murdering it." He shot me a look, the kind of look that used to make grown men wet themselves. Now it just made me smile. "Try again," I said, handing him a fresh portion. "Fold, don't press." Light touches. The Black Dragon, the most feared man in the Korean underworld, took a deep breath and attempted to gently fold pastry dough. Flour dusted his black t-shirt. A smear of butter marked his cheek. He looked absolutely ridiculous. He looked perfect. Like this? Better. Now the next fold. No, not that hard. You're not interrogating it. I don't interrogate anymore. Tell that to the croissant. He muttered something in Korean that I chose not to translate, but his hands moved more carefully. The croissant began to take shape, lopsided, imperfect, but recognizable. "There," I said. "See? You can be taught. I ran a criminal empire. I should be able to make bread." "It's not bread, it's laminated dough. Completely different skill set. It's flour and butter. How hard can it be?" I gestured at the massacre of failed attempts on his side of the counter. "You tell me." Jun Seo stared at the evidence of his repeated failures, then back at me. For a moment, I thought he might actually be offended. Then he laughed. It was still strange, hearing him laugh. For months after everything happened, he'd been quiet. Careful. Learning how to exist in a world where he wasn't constantly watching for threats. The nightmares came less frequently now. The tension in his shoulders had finally started to ease. He was still learning. We both were. "Daddy." Min Jun burst through the kitchen door, still in his dinosaur pajamas, hair sticking up in every direction. He made a beeline for Jun Seo, who caught him easily and swung him up onto his hip. You're supposed to be asleep, Junseo said. I smelled the baking. That's not an excuse. It is when mommy makes the chocolate ones. Junseo looked at me. I shrugged innocently. I don't know what he's talking about. The chocolate croissants, Minjun said seriously. The ones you hide in the back so the customers don't get them all. Traitor. Minjun giggled, wrapping his arms around Junseo's neck. Dragon says I can have one. Dragon says you need to go back to bed. Dragon says. Dragon says. Junseo kissed the top of his head. Fine. 1. But you eat it upstairs and go back to sleep. I handed over a still warm chocolate croissant, and Minjun clutched it like treasure. Junseo carried him back toward the stairs, still covered in flour, still looking like something out of a fevered dream, the assassin and the child, domestic and deadly all at once. At the doorway, Minjun looked back at me. Love you, mommy. Love you too, baby. Love you, daddy. Junseo went still. He always did, every time Minjun called him that. Like the word was a blow he hadn't learned to brace for. Love you too, he said quietly. Now sleep. The bakery opened at 7. We'd rebuilt it bigger, better, new display cases, new ovens, an expanded seating area. The sign still read Morning Light, but everything else was different. Stronger. The insurance company had called it a total loss after the shooting. I'd called it an opportunity. Mrs. Patterson was first through the door, as always. Good morning, Sarah. She smiled at me, then noticed Junseo behind the counter, attempting to work the espresso machine. And who's this handsome stranger? My husband, I said, and watched Junseo fumble the coffee cup. Well. Soon-to-be husband. He's learning the business. Handsome and useful. You did well. Mrs. Patterson patted my arm. The usual, dear. I handed her the rye loaf I'd already set aside. She'd been ordering the same thing for 6 years. Some things didn't change. How's the hip? I asked. Terrible. How's the boy? Growing too fast. They do that. She tucked the bread under her arm. You hold on to him. And that man of yours. The good ones are worth keeping. She shuffled out, and I caught Junseo's eye across the counter. The good ones? He raised an eyebrow. She doesn't know you. She knows enough. He finally produced something that vaguely resembled a latte. I think I'm getting better at this. You're getting less terrible. It's not the same thing. The bell chimed again, but this time the figure in the doorway wasn't a regular. Detective Hannah Cho looked different out of her tactical gear, softer, almost human. But her eyes were the same. Sharp. Calculating. Missing nothing. Ms. Park. Mr. Kong. Detective. I wiped my hands on my apron. Coffee? Please. I made her a cup while she settled at the counter. Junseo moved to the back, giving us space, but I knew he was listening. Old habits. You look good, Hannah said. Both of you. We're surviving. More than surviving, from what I can see. She glanced around the bakery, the fresh paint, the new equipment, the customers starting to trickle in. You've built something here. We're trying. Hannah took a sip of her coffee, then set it down with precision. The investigation is complete. 17 corrupt officials, 3 syndicate leaders, and 46 associated criminals, all convicted or awaiting trial. The John network is dismantled. The white tigers are scattered. She met my eyes. You delivered everything you promised. So did you. I keep my word. She stood, leaving a 20 on the counter for a $3 coffee. Don't make me regret this deal. I'll be watching. Junseo appeared from the back. I know. They stared at each other, 2 predators acknowledging the other's territory. Stay clean, Hannah said finally. And stay safe. Not everyone's as forgiving as I am. She left without looking back. Jun-seo watched her go, then turned to me. She's not forgiving at all. No, I agreed. But she's fair. That's enough. That night, Jun-seo took me to the beach. Min-jun was asleep upstairs, exhausted from a day of helping in the bakery, which mostly meant eating samples and getting flour in his hair. The house was quiet. The stars were bright. Jun-seo led me down to the water's edge, to the spot where I used to walk alone, watching the horizon like I was waiting for something I couldn't name. I used to come here, I said. After Min-jun was born. I'd stand right here and wonder if I'd made the right choice. Did you? I didn't know. For 5 years, I didn't know. I turned to face him. Now I do. Jun-seo was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. My heart stopped. I've been carrying this for weeks, he said. Trying to find the right moment. The right words. He laughed softly. I've killed people with less fear than this. Jun-seo. Let me finish. He opened the box. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, a single diamond catching the moonlight. I bought this 5 years ago. The night before you died. The breath left my lungs. I was going to ask you. I had a whole plan, dinner, candles, all the things you're supposed to do. And then the fire, and you were gone, and I put this in a drawer and tried to forget it existed. His voice cracked. But I couldn't throw it away. Even when I hated you for leaving. Even when I thought you'd betrayed me. I couldn't let it go. Tears burned my eyes. I spent 5 years talking to your grave, he continued. Asking if you'd have said yes. If we could have had a life together, if things had been different. He knelt on the sand, looking up at me with those dark eyes that had haunted my dreams for half a decade. I'm done talking to stones, Soo-Min. I'm asking you directly. Be my wife. Let me spend whatever years I have left proving I deserve this second chance. I opened my mouth to answer. Then closed it. What? Fear flickered across his face. If you need time. I need to tell you something first. He waited. Patient. Terrified. I hated you. The words came out raw, honest. For 5 years, I hated you with everything I had. I believed you wanted me dead, and I let that hatred keep me warm on the nights I couldn't sleep. I let it fuel me, drive me, turn me into someone who could survive alone. Soo-Min. And the whole time, I was wrong. Everything I believed was a lie. The monster I was running from didn't exist. I knelt down in the sand with him, taking his face in my hands. But here's the thing. Even when I hated you, even when I thought you were the villain, I told Min-jun about you. I called you his dragon. I made you a hero in his eyes because I couldn't stand for him to grow up thinking his father was evil. Tears slipped down my cheeks. I never stopped loving you. Not really. Not even when I wanted to. I wasted 5 years hating a lie. I pressed my forehead to his. I won't waste another second. Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes to everything. He kissed me. It was different from the desperate kiss in the safe house, different from the angry collision in the bakery. This was soft. Tender. A promise. When we finally broke apart, he slipped the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly. I love you, he said. I never stopped either. The letter arrived 3 days later. No return address. No postmark. Just a plain white envelope with my name written in careful Korean characters. I opened it in the kitchen, Jun-seo reading over my shoulder. Inside was a photograph. A little girl. 3 years old, maybe 4. Dark hair, dark eyes. A face that looked eerily familiar. And beneath the photo, a note in Dae-young's handwriting. Did you really think the chairman only had one backup plan? Find her before the others do. Jun-seo went very still beside me. Another child, I breathed. Whose? I don't know. His jaw was tight. But I intend to find out. We stared at the photograph together. Another secret. Another lie rising from the ashes of a past we thought we'd buried. But this time, I didn't feel fear. I felt ready. Morning. The bakery filled with golden light as I unlocked the front door. The ovens were warm, the coffee was brewing, and the display cases were full of fresh pastries, including 3 lopsided croissants that Jun-seo had somehow made edible. He came down the stairs with Min-jun on his shoulders, both of them covered in marker stains from an early drawing session. Min-jun was waving a piece of paper triumphantly. Look, Mommy. I made a family picture. I took it carefully. 3 stick figures, a tall one with black hair, a medium one with long hair, and a small one in the middle, holding both their hands. It's beautiful, baby. That's you, and that's Daddy, and that's me. We're dragons. Jun-seo set him down, and Min-jun ran to the display case to press his nose against the glass, already negotiating his breakfast. The bell above the door chimed. The first customer of the day. I looked at my small, imperfect family, the Mafia boss learning to make coffee, the little boy showing off his drawings, the life I'd clawed back from the ashes. Jun-seo caught my eye across the counter and smiled. Not the cold smile of the black dragon. Not the calculated expression of the man who'd built an empire on blood. Something softer. Something new. Something ours. 5 years ago, I ran from a monster. Today, I'm building a life with the man I found underneath. And if more monsters come, from prisons, from shadows, from the past we can't fully escape, we'll face them the same way. Together. Bloody if necessary. Unbroken always. I know you enjoyed this video. Kindly do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Drop your thoughts in the comments section and share this video to family and friends. The end.